code of retribution. The hum of the dishwasher was a constant, almost comforting drone in the background, a stark contrast to the growing unease tightening my chest. Jessica was late. Again. Not just a few minutes, but a full hour. Traffic, she'd texted, the excuse as worn and thin as the threadbare rug in our hallway. But something felt different this time. A subtle shift in her demeanor, a flicker in her eyes that betrayed a secret I couldn't quite grasp. Before I met my wife, I was a fight now ask later kind of guy. The city was my first teacher, a brutal one. Words were useless, a waste of breath. I got bullied so much that I learned to move like a shadow, to anticipate, and to strike without hesitation. I fought so much that I gained the nickname Ghost. I made friends with people I had no business running with and did some illegal things that a boy my age shouldn't know about. I was forced by my environment to be a rough kid and an even rougher teenager. At one point, I hated my mom for picking a crap man like my sperm donor. But deep down I knew she was doing her best for us. She worked hard, which meant she was never home, and when she was too tired because she was overworked. I had no guidance other than the guys who took me under their wings. The money I got from working for them I hid at home to help with my college. When I wasn't working for them, I was busy getting my grades up and working out to keep in shape from all the crap food I had to eat. I lived that way till I left school and found a real job to pay for my own stuff, giving my mom a break to work fewer hours. I wanted to leave my messed up community and help my mom. Make something of myself. I was around 22 on my way from work when I met Jessica, 20. I got caught in the rain and took shelter in the library since my place was still far away. She was in the same situation, getting trapped there. She made a joke about our situation and that started our convo. She talked and I listened. Her voice was a current pulling me in. We talked till the rain let up and it became our thing to meet at the library when we could. We became fast friends and I told her fragments of my past. The rough edges, the violence. She didn't judge me or show pity. It was nice. She saw the scars and she accepted me. And things were great. We were friends for 10 years and married for 7. We built a life together, a quiet one. I left the city's shadows behind, traded fists for code. I thought I'd found peace. I thought I'd finally escaped the darkness. But I was wrong. The darkness was always there, waiting. 7 years of what I thought was a solid, predictable existence. We had our routines, our shared jokes, our comfortable silences. I was a software engineer, a man of logic and precision, and I applied that same methodical approach to my marriage. I analyzed, calculated, and adjusted, ensuring everything ran smoothly. I thought we were happy and that she loved the life we built. The first red flag was the phone. She'd clutch it like a lifeline, the screen angled away from me, her fingers dancing across the keyboard with a frantic energy I'd never seen before. Whispered conversations in the hallway, late-night work calls that left her flustered and distracted. Then, there was a change in her scent. A new perfume, something floral and overly sweet, replacing her usual subtle vanilla. And the clothes. New dresses, more revealing than her usual style, hanging in the closet with the tags still attached. My analytical mind, usually a source of comfort, became my tormentor. I started tracking her movements, noting the inconsistencies in her schedule and the unexplained gaps in her days. I installed a discrete keylogger on our shared devices, a move that felt both invasive and necessary. The data was a cold, hard confirmation of my growing suspicions. Late-night chats with an unknown number, deleted messages, and a series of rendezvous at a small motel. After my suspicions were confirmed, I hired a PI. I needed more information to go on. I needed to know who it is, when it started, and all the small things that a PI could get me without me getting my hands dirty. It didn't take long for me to get a name. From her messages, the name John popped up repeatedly. A guy I didn't know. I found his social media. A handsome man. His profile was a string of generic motivational quotes and topless pictures. My anger was through the roof, but I knew how bad things could get if my wife started spreading lies and making false reports, especially with my record. So I began to plan. It was cold and calculated. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't plead. I would dissect their betrayal and dismantle it piece by piece. I documented everything. Every text, every photo, every location. And everything my PI got his hands on. I studied John's online presence, his habits, and his vulnerabilities. It wasn't hard to learn his routines, his favorite haunts, and his weaknesses. My wife made it easy for me without realizing it. I did everything I normally did for my wife and continued to be the clueless husband. The only thing I stopped doing was sleeping with her, which didn't seem to bother her. I got every test I could to make sure I didn't get burned by this woman pretending to love me. Slowly, I put my plan into play. My plan was as intricate and precise as any code I'd ever written. I was going to use their own deception against them and turn their lies into their ultimate downfall. The glitch in the system would be fixed, but not in the way they expected. After a week of pretending, something happened that sped up my plans. Jessica was making plans with John to go on a weekend getaway. She planned to tell me it was a girls' trip, like really. I wanted for her to bring it up, and before she could get the words out, I told her we should go out for coffee. She was caught off guard but agreed. We went to the cafe she and John would meet up before going to the motel. It was out of the way but worth it. She couldn't relax or enjoy the coffee. She didn't even bring up what she wanted to talk about. It was hilarious. I didn't know if I should laugh or be angry. The cafe was small, with soft lighting and the aroma of expensive coffee. It was their sanctuary, the place where Jessica and John conducted their plans and checked which days they could meet up. I'd been watching them for weeks, mapping their routines, anticipating their every move. It didn't even take 24 hours. They went the next day in the afternoon. Maybe my little trick startled her, who knows. But that's when I decided to play my hand. I arrived early. For their next meetup before the trip, this lady still did not inform me. I secured a table with a clear view of their usual spot. I dressed casually to blend into the background. I had a small, inconspicuous recorder in my pocket and a digital copy of their incriminating messages on my phone. Jessica arrived first. She seemed nervous and all around weird. Panicked energy radiating from her. She scanned the cafe like she was being followed. I could see the apprehension in her eyes. John arrived moments later, which seemed to cool her anxiety. They exchanged a brief kiss, a gesture that filled me with rage. I waited, letting the tension build, letting their false sense of security deepen. I watched as they laughed, whispered, and held hands, oblivious to the storm brewing around them. Then I made my move. I rose from my table, walked over to theirs, and placed a small, elegantly wrapped box on their table. The suddenness of my appearance startled them, their smiles fading into expressions of confusion and then dawning horror. "A gift," I said, my voice calm. "For both of you." Jessica's hand trembled as she reached for the box, her eyes wide with fear. John scoffed, trying to regain his composure. "What is this, Nick?" he asked, his voice laced with forced bravado. "You need to shut up," I said, my eyes fixed on Jessica. She slowly unwrapped the box, revealing a USB drive. Her breath hitched, her face draining of color. John leaned in, his expression turning from amusement to alarm. "What's on it?" she asked, her voice now edged with panic. "Everything," I said. "Every text, every photo, every video and location. Every lie you told, and every secret you kept." I pulled out my phone and played a recording of their most recent conversation, the one where they mocked my naivety, their voices echoing through the cafe. The silence that followed was deafening. "I've also sent copies to your wife, John," I said, my eyes now fixed on him. "And to your boss. And to anyone else who might be interested." John's face contorted with rage, but he remained frozen. Jessica, her face a mask of shame and despair, looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and regret. "Why, Nick?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Because you broke the system," I said, my voice cold and emotionless. "And I'm the engineer. So I fixed it. You will not come home, Jessica. You won't call or reach out. I've sent all your things that I didn't pay for, of course, to John's house." She looked at me horrified, but I continued. "I really hope you get to them before his wife," I said with a chuckle. John was angry, but he didn't say anything, and I didn't blame him. I was bigger than him and 2 feet taller. I took Jessica's hands and took the rings off her finger. Then I leaned in and whispered in her ear, "Be grateful I am a changed man, otherwise I would have rid this world of you, or better yet, I'd have you looking over your shoulder for life." I fixed my composure, and with a smile I turned and walked away, leaving them to their shattered world. The cafe, once their sanctuary, was now their prison. I walked out into the hot air, the sun feeling hotter than usual with the weight of my revenge settling upon me. I felt no joy, no satisfaction. Only an empty sense of completion. The glitch had been fixed. Now it was time to take away everything Jessica thought she had. By telling Jess not to return, I bought myself some time. I put my other plan into action. I drained the accounts, only leaving what she put in. Then I put up a for sale sign for the house and donated all the furniture. I also gave away most of my clothes and only kept what was necessary. Things were going well till I started to get calls from Jess asking why I drained the accounts and begging to talk about things. I ignored the rest once I got the drift of what she wanted. I then created a website and posted everything I collected and made fake accounts to promote the website. The digital dossier, a meticulously compiled chronicle of their affair, was my weapon of choice. It wasn't about physical violence. It was about dismantling their lives with surgical precision. First, John. His professional life was built on a facade of integrity. After everything I forwarded to his company's HR department, along with a detailed timeline of his rendezvous, cross-referenced with his work calendar. The resulting investigation was swift and brutal. His reputation, once pristine, was now irrevocably tarnished. The website did them no favors either. He was terminated and his career abruptly halted. His personal life also crumbled. Everything I anonymously sent his wife Emma came back to bite him in the butt. She had everything. Links to the encrypted website containing all the evidence, and even the digital proof I presented earlier without my direct involvement. The ensuing confrontation was a spectacle of shattered trust and broken promises. I observed from a distance, a silent spectator in the theater of their unraveling marriage. I wish I could have been there to see Jess picking up her things, but I settled for seeing John get his ass handed to him by a 5'3" woman. The divorce proceedings were swift, and John lost everything, including access to his children. I couldn't believe that piece of trash had children. Jessica's downfall was more nuanced. I didn't just want to destroy her, I wanted her to understand the depth of her betrayal. Instead of public exposure, I opted for a more intimate form of retribution. I systematically erased her online presence, deleting her social media accounts, and scrubbing her digital footprint. I wanted her to feel isolated, adrift in a world where her carefully curated online persona no longer existed. I also targeted her sense of security. How dare she believe me when I told her I wouldn't make her look over her shoulder? I began subtly altering her environment, moving objects in her new apartment, changing the settings on appliances, creating a sense of unease and paranoia. I wanted her to question her perception of reality, to feel the same disorientation I had experienced when I discovered her infidelity. I did this till the day my house sold and our divorce was final. She knew it was me, but she had no proof and she was scared to report me. Her little lover ditched her after he realized she also got nothing. I left her a letter before I disappeared. I have no clue if she read it or not, but that wasn't my problem. My escape was meticulously planned. I established a new identity, complete with a changed name and a fabricated backstory. I liquidated the assets that I kept and erased all the traces I could of my existence. I left no loose ends. My departure was silent like a ghost slipping through the cracks. I left behind a blank canvas, a void where my life once existed. I vanished, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their actions, their lives forever altered. I moved to a small town 5 states away. The old Nick was gone, replaced by a man who understood the power of calculated revenge, a man who had learned to erase his existence. Moving on was easy and finding a new job was easier. I had no family since my mom passed and just took what I thought was happiness. Now all my money goes into cars and properties. I needed someone to inherit everything once I was gone, so I adopted a teenage girl, Talia, and her younger brother, Stefan. She was almost 18 and the orphanage couldn't keep her once she was an adult. She didn't want to leave her brother, so I ended up with 2 kids who love me and I adore them. Maybe one day I will tell them how their old man became the man he is today. Thanks for listening to my story.